This is Alex Mercer, coming to you with a special broadcast of extraordinary urgency. For months, the world has existed in a fragile calm, a silence so delicate that any disturbance felt like it could shatter global nerves. Since the departure of Object 7X Rho, the colossal and incomprehensible structure that defied every known law of physics, humanity has been struggling to return to some version of normalcy. People began rebuilding their lives, scientists cautiously resumed their work, and governments quietly updated protocols in case the unthinkable ever happened again. Most of us chose to believe the chapter had closed, that the event was a singular anomaly never to be repeated. But tonight, all of that fragile hope has been torn away. Roughly 40 minutes ago, the Lowell Deep Space Array detected a gravitational signature at the very edge of the solar system, something so massive and so abrupt that instruments initially flagged the reading as corrupted. But then the same anomaly appeared on the Chilean Net Optic Array, then again on Japan's exosphere monitors, and then from observatories across Europe. This was no glitch. Something had crossed into the solar system at a velocity no natural object could withstand. And as the data aligned, as the projections stabilized, the truth emerged with a cold clarity that sent waves of dread across every scientific channel. 7X Rho has returned. The cascade of new information coming into this newsroom is staggering. When it first visited, the object behaved unnervingly like a stone on rails, steady, silent, and consistent, following a path that seemed predetermined long before humans ever noticed it. But this time, its movements are different. Every observatory that has eyes on the object is reporting the same behavior: abrupt, mathematically perfect deceleration patterns. It slows down not gradually, but in crisp, instantaneous cuts, velocity dropping in increments so precise they resemble computer commands more than cosmic motion. This is not drifting. This is piloting. Whatever force or intelligence controls 7X Rho is maneuvering with a precision no human craft could ever achieve. And the most extraordinary detail is that the object shows no physical strain from these maneuvers. No thermal bloom, no structural stress, nothing. As though inertia itself does not apply to it. As if it operates outside the physics we understand. Spectrographic analysis is painting an even stranger picture. During its first appearance, 7X Rho emitted a faint, erratic energy signature, like a dying radio signal or a system idling. But now something has changed. The object is glowing with layered rhythmic pulses across multiple wavelengths. These aren't random emissions. The frequencies overlap in repeating cycles, forming patterns that look eerily like encoded sequences. Scientists have described the new energy readings as enhanced, reinforced, even upgraded. Something happened out there, in the cold darkness beyond our star system. Something that altered the object in profound ways, and whatever changed it, strengthened it. Let me be clear about the tone I'm sensing from every expert, every analyst, every researcher we've contacted tonight. Alarm. Pure, scientific alarm. The first arrival was terrifying because we didn't understand what it was. This second arrival is terrifying because now it has returned, and it has done so with intention. And the silence is the most haunting part of all. Unlike last time, when the object emitted faint pulses, strange lights, and planetary-scale anomalies, 7X Rho is not broadcasting anything. No harmonics, no signals, no communication of any kind. The object is descending into the inner solar system completely, chillingly mute. It moves like something that doesn't need to announce itself anymore, something that already knows what waits for it on the third planet from the Sun. As I speak, we're receiving real-time trajectory data. The object has passed Neptune's orbital boundary. How fast is it moving? According to current estimates, 7x rho decelerated from interstellar traversal speed to suborbital drift in a matter of minutes. Minutes. Even our fastest probes would require months. But the moment it encountered the Sun's gravity, it slowed, smoothly at first, then with sharp geometric precision. Observers are calling these events gravity denial maneuvers. The object behaves as though the gravitational pull of the Sun is merely a suggestion, not a law. It is controlling its course with such finesse that scientists are struggling to keep up with the live projections. And behind every technical briefing, there is the same whispered question: why is it back? No one has an answer. Not yet. But I can tell you what we do know. Global leaders are already in emergency session. Military space commands are on alert across every continent. The public is flooding official channels demanding information. And here, inside this studio, with screens updating in frantic cascades of data, the reality is becoming clearer with every passing second. 7x rho did not return by accident. It was not wandering. It is coming back with purpose. And if its first visit was a test, an observation, or a signal, then this second arrival feels like the continuation of a conversation humanity did not realize had begun. This is Alex Mercer. Stay with us as we continue to track the object. The sky has changed tonight, and whatever has returned through it, whatever intelligence resides inside that impossible structure, knows us now. It remembers us, and it is coming home. This is Alex Mercer returning with an urgent update as the situation surrounding Object 7x rho grows increasingly strange. Over the past hour, telescopes across the globe, both ground-based and orbital, have captured the clearest images we've ever had of the returning object, and the findings are nothing short of staggering. The 7x rho we remember, the one that shook humanity to its core months ago, is not the same structure now gliding through the inner solar system. Astronomers have begun comparing the new data with archived footage, and the differences are unmistakable. What was once an irregular, cratered mass resembling a hybrid between an asteroid and an engineered shell has now transformed into something far more intricate. Its outer surface has reorganized itself into a polyhedral lattice, sharply angled, staggeringly precise, and illuminated by thin, glowing seams that pulse like veins carrying some form of exotic energy. This is not natural evolution. This is not erosion, damage, or random structural shifting. This is purposeful redesign. The transformation becomes even more disturbing upon closer examination. High-resolution imagery shows that certain panels, if we can even call them that, are now rotating independently from the main body. These rotations occur in patterns, slow, synchronized oscillations, followed by rapid, almost mechanical pivots that align perfectly with its new geometry. Astronomers have tracked these movements and discovered that every rotation follows a strict mathematical ratio, almost like a coded sequence or an advanced navigational protocol. It looks less like an asteroid or even a traditional spacecraft, and more like a machine unfolding into a new mode of operation. And as we continue receiving updated renderings, one fact becomes inescapable. 7x rho has not merely returned, it has evolved. Let me put this in terms anyone watching at home can understand. Imagine taking a satellite, any satellite, and having its metal shell rearrange itself mid-flight into a completely different design, one far more complex than the original, with glowing seams that radiate energy no human sensor can categorize. Imagine parts of that same satellite turning and adjusting on their own, as if preparing for a new function. That is what we are witnessing right now. This isn't the object we saw before. It is something refined, upgraded, reconfigured, something that seems ready. And I want to emphasize this next point, because it's the detail that has shaken the scientific community the most. These changes could not have happened by accident. 7X Rho didn't just endure its journey beyond the solar system, it transformed during it. Every new angle, every luminous seam, every rotating panel suggests deliberate modification. The object's design appears adaptive, as if responding to new data, new conditions, or new intentions. Some astrophysicists are quietly suggesting that the object may have entered a different operational phase, almost like a seed unfolding into a different form once the conditions were right. Others believe the changes might be a message, an intentional display to show that it has grown more capable, more aware, more attuned to its environment. As I sit here comparing the old archived footage to the new images, I can feel the same realization settling across the studio. 7X Rho has not simply come back to us. It has returned as something else, something more advanced, something more prepared. And if this transformation was intentional, then the question becomes, what exactly is it preparing for? This is Alex Mercer with another critical development as the situation surrounding Object 7X Rho enters a new and deeply unsettling phase. In its first visit, the object announced itself with a cascade of anomalies, radiation pulses, gravitational distortions, strange harmonic frequencies that rippled across the ionosphere. It behaved like a beacon, intentionally or not, drawing the world's attention with every flicker and every impossible movement. But now it approaches in absolute, suffocating silence. For the past several hours, 7X Rho has been drifting toward Earth's orbital corridor with a calm, deliberate glide, emitting no signals, no lights, no detectable broadcasts of any kind. The glow from its reconfigured panels remains faint and steady, but there is no communication, no rhythm, no resonance, nothing to indicate intention or function. And that silence, according to every expert we've spoken to tonight, is more terrifying than any hostile signal would have been. Tracking stations worldwide are reporting unprecedented difficulties. It began with minor inconsistencies, timing errors on orbital telemetry, tiny delays in data refresh rates. But those glitches quickly escalated into something far more disturbing. Instruments that were once able to record the object with remarkable clarity now show blurred vectors, intermittent dropouts, and what analysts are calling soft overwrites, as if the incoming data is being subtly replaced or shifted before it reaches human eyes. No alarms, no abrupt failures, just quiet corruption of the information itself. It's as though the object is not jamming our systems outright, but simply refusing to be seen. Observatories in Chile, Australia, Hawaii, and space-based platforms like the Lunar Array are all reporting the same phenomenon. Every attempt to measure 7X Rho feels like trying to observe something that actively avoids observation, something that does not want to be tracked. I must be honest with you. There is a tension in the air tonight that I have never felt before, not even during the object's first approach. Scientists, military analysts, Even seasoned astronomers are describing this silence as unnatural, deliberate. One source told me, on the condition of anonymity, that it feels like the calm before a question we don't know how to answer. And that sentiment has spread far beyond laboratories and control rooms. All across the globe, people are watching the sky with a kind of quiet, breath-held dread. There are no broadcasts from the object to decode, no beams of light sweeping across the atmosphere, no gravitational surges to analyze. There is only the growing awareness that something immense and intelligent is moving closer with purposeful restraint. Let me describe the image unfolding on our monitors right now. The object floats through space with an almost predatory grace, slow, measured, unhurried, as if confident that nothing can interfere with its path. Each of its geometric panels remains perfectly aligned, turning only when absolutely necessary, rotating with movements so subtle that our equipment barely registers them. And yet, with every passing minute, the distance between 7X Rho and Earth closes. No sound, no signal, no energy flare, just a colossal, reconfigured machine, or organism, depending on who you ask, bearing down on our part of the solar system like a shadow that refuses to cast itself. Psychologists are calling the global reaction anticipatory dread. The world remembers what happened last time. The countdowns, the evacuations, the failed military interventions, the inexplicable course change, and most of all, the near catastrophic fear that swept across every continent. But this time the terror is quieter, heavier, because the object is withholding everything it once revealed. If the last visit was communication, this is assessment. If the last arrival was introduction, this one feels like inspection. This is Alex Mercer. We will continue reporting every update we can, though right now, the updates themselves feel muffled, as though something vast and hidden is smothering the information before it reaches us. 7X Rho is approaching Earth in silence, and the world is holding its breath. This is Alex Mercer with a development that has intensified the already mounting dread surrounding 7X Rho's return. Over the past hour, military telescopes operating in geostationary surveillance mode have detected multiple small objects moving in close proximity to the main structure. Objects initially dismissed as debris shaken loose during the object's recent geometric reconfiguration. But that assumption was shattered almost immediately. As the world's observatories increased magnification and ran motion tracking scans, the debris began shifting in ways no fragments of rock or metal ever could. They moved with precision, snapping into tight, coordinated formations as if responding to an unseen command. These tiny structures, barely visible against the black backdrop of space, aligned themselves around 7X Rho in perfect geometric patterns. And tonight, experts across the globe are calling them something far more unsettling than debris. They are calling them escorts, drones, artificial spores, controlled autonomous companions orbiting the main object like guardians. The behavior of these escorts defies every principle of propulsion or physics we understand. Analysts reviewing infrared imaging have confirmed that none of the small objects emit heat, exhaust, or any detectable signs of movement. They accelerate, decelerate, and pivot with abrupt angular shifts that should tear any conventional device apart. Yet they perform these maneuvers in utter silence and with flawless synchronicity, maintaining identical distances between each other with mathematical precision. Some appear to rotate slowly around their own axes. Others remain inert until the entire formation pivots as one, like a school of fish responding to a predator. But there is no predator present, only 7X Rho itself, and the unnerving suggestion that these drones are either protecting it or assisting it. The moment these escorts shifted into their first formation, global command centers erupted into alarm. NORAD, ESA, and multiple private aerospace companies began analyzing the pattern, and what they discovered only deepened the anxiety. The formation wasn't random. It was structured. 3 concentric layers of equidistant points, each layer rotated relative to the next. Some have compared the pattern to a Dyson arrangement on a miniature scale, while others claim the formation resembles artificial magnetic shielding. Still others believe these drones may be mapping the surrounding space, probing for threats, or acting as sensory extensions for the main object. Whatever their purpose, the sight of multiple autonomous units orbiting an already incomprehensible structure has left both scientists and military officials shaken. One analyst described the scene to me with a tremor in his voice. "It's not one object anymore, Mercer. It's a network." As I speak to you now, the escorts maintain their tight formation. The object at the center, 7X Rho, continues its silent descent toward Earth's orbital neighborhood, and these smaller companions orbit it like dedicated bodyguards. They move in perfect sync, never colliding, never drifting, as though bound together by an electromagnetic lattice or some form of shared consciousness. And that possibility, unsettling as it is, has gained traction among several theoretical researchers. Multiple experts have proposed that the drones might not be separate machines at all, but extensions of 7X Rho, limbs, nerves, or sensory nodes of a single larger intelligence. If this object is not a spacecraft in the traditional sense, but a biomechanical entity, then these drones could function the way cells function in a living organism. The public reaction has been immediate and intense. Social media is filled with spiraling theories, from swarms to offspring to weapon arrays. But the truth is far simpler and far more frightening. These escorts are behaving with intention. They did not scatter. They did not drift. They gathered, aligned, and activated as though responding to orders. This is the clearest sign yet that 7X Rho is not operating alone. Whether these companions serve as defense systems, navigational tools, or something far more complex remains unknown. But as we watch them orbit the returning object like orbiting sentinels, the silence surrounding 7X Rho's intentions feels heavier than ever. This is Alex Mercer. Stay with us. Because for the first time, we are not observing one anomalous entity approaching Earth. We are witnessing a coordinated formation, and whatever intelligence drives this system is showing us only the beginning of its capabilities. This is Alex Mercer coming to you with what may be the most alarming development in 7X Rho's second approach. In the past several hours, as the object crossed into the asteroid belt, something unprecedented began happening across the solar system. Subtle at first, small variances in tidal behavior, minor drift in orbital telemetry, faint fluctuations in radiation fields. But now, as more data pours in, the scientific community is uncomfortably aligned on a single conclusion. 7X Rho is not merely passing through space, it is distorting it. Gravitational sensors stationed across the asteroid belt began reporting fractional anomalies, decimal point shifts that shouldn't matter, yet somehow propagated into larger, measurable disturbances. Earth's coastal monitoring systems detected tides rising and falling minutes ahead of schedule, while deep-sea pressure sensors recorded compressions that didn't correspond to lunar influence or any known terrestrial trigger. These distortions are not random. They follow the path of the returning object like a shadow. Wherever 7X Rho goes, the laws of physics seem to pulse and bend, as if space itself is being softened around it. The anomalies aren't limited to Earth. Mars has experienced intermittent malfunctions among several of its orbital satellites, devices hardened against cosmic radiation, solar flares, and micrometeorite impacts. Yet today, one after another, they flickered and rebooted in perfect synchrony, as if struck by an invisible wave passing through their circuitry. Meanwhile, Jupiter's massive radiation belts, normally turbulent but predictable, began rippling in unnatural oscillations, waves of electromagnetic distortion rolling outward from a singular direction, the path of 7X Rho. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory released an urgent statement confirming that these disruptions do not resemble typical gravitational interactions, nor can they be explained by magnetic interference, dark matter pockets, or solar flux. Whatever force emanates from 7X Rho appears to bend local physics without consuming energy, without emitting heat, and without altering its own observable mass. For lack of a better term, physicists are calling this phenomenon a localized field distortion. But even they admit the term is a placeholder for something they simply do not understand. I've just finished speaking with several leading physicists, all of whom sounded more bewildered than alarmist, which only makes their reactions more unsettling. One researcher from Caltech described the situation as a distortion bubble, suggesting that 7X Rho may be surrounded by a field that alters the curvature of space on demand, much like theoretical Alcubierre warp models, except without the astronomical energy requirements that, until today, confined such concepts to science fiction. Another expert from the European Space Agency confessed that this object appears able to manipulate gravitational geometry the way a hand shapes water. She told me, her voice trembling, if this object is bending space for propulsion, then it isn't traveling through the solar system. It's folding the solar system around itself. These aren't sensationalist commentators or fringe theorists. These are the people who teach physics to the rest of the world. The implications of this distortion ripple across every scientific field. If 7X Rho can change gravitational constants as it moves, then our predictive models, planetary orbits, atmospheric patterns, even the behavior of the oceans, could be subject to fluctuations as long as it remains in the inner system. And yet, despite the enormity of these distortions, there is no evidence of energy expenditure, no emissions, no radiation surges, no thermal bloom, nothing. It bends the rules without paying any cost, like an entity exempt from the limitations that govern every celestial body we've ever observed. Some physicists have floated a theory that the object is generating an artificial curvature field, expanding and contracting space-time around itself as naturally as a biological organism breathes. Others believe it could be leveraging exotic particles or dimensions we cannot detect. But there is one consensus. This is no simple machine. Whatever intelligence created 7X Rho has harnessed a form of physics that makes even our most advanced engineering look primitive. As the object continues its silent drift toward Earth's orbital neighborhood, the distortions grow slightly stronger, and the scientific community grows more anxious. Not because they fear destruction, but because they fear insignificance. The solar system is reacting to 7X Rho the way fabric reacts to a weight placed upon it. This object is rewriting the environment around itself just by existing. And tonight, as the laws of physics bend ever so slightly across millions of miles, humanity is left with an unsettling question. If this is merely the effect of 7X-Row's presence, what happens when it finally decides to act? This is Alex Mercer, and what I'm about to describe may be the most unnerving moment in humanity's long, trembling vigil since 7X-Row first entered our skies nearly a year ago. Just 40 minutes ago, the object completed its silent glide toward Earth and came to an instantaneous halt, a perfect, motionless stop in open space, at a distance of exactly 200,000 kilometers from our planet. Not a meter more, not a meter less. A position so precise that astronomers triple-checked their instruments in disbelief. No celestial body has ever behaved this way. Nothing in nature stops dead in the vacuum of space without a trace of drift or inertia. Yet there it hangs now, fixed against the blackness like a pin pressed into velvet, untouched by gravity, unbothered by orbital mechanics, perfectly still as though anchored to an invisible point in space-time. And then, as if responding to some silent internal cue, the escort drones that have followed it since the asteroid belt began moving into formation. What we are witnessing is unlike anything observed in human history. Dozens, possibly hundreds, of the small enigmatic drones around 7X-Row froze in motion simultaneously, their previously fluid rotations and orbit patterns locking into absolute stillness. Then, with eerie synchronization, they drifted into position. Slowly at first, then with a startling precision, they arranged themselves around the main object in strict geometric alignment. From the Earth-facing side, telescopes captured them, forming what looks like a massive three-dimensional constellation, points of glimmering metal and shadow suspended around a central, unblinking core. The formation itself isn't random. It appears to be a nested polyhedral array, each drone occupying a mathematically perfect node in a floating architecture too intricate to be accidental. Some scientists are comparing the arrangement to a resonant cavity, a kind of spatial instrument. Others have suggested it resembles ritual positioning, as though the structure itself is preparing for something. The sight of it has shaken even the calmest experts. Several astronomers I spoke with admitted that watching the drones lock into place felt less like observing technology and more like witnessing choreography, an intentional, almost ceremonial display. One physicist from MIT told me that the formation's symmetry looks designed for communication, while another confessed it resembles a stellar-scale lock, a mechanism waiting to receive or emit something. Yet despite countless theories, one detail rises above them all. Whatever purpose this formation serves, it was executed with omniscient precision. Each drone moved as if following a shared mind. There were no corrections, no rebalancing, no hesitation. They simply took their places in a cosmic diagram, calmly, quietly, flawlessly. Public reactions around the globe have been equally intense. Millions are watching the live feeds as 7X-Row and its escorts hover in absolute silence. No pulses, no signals, no beams of light, no motion whatsoever. Just an alien object and its attendant constellation holding a rigid pose above our world, like a celestial ritual frozen at its climax. The formation is so symmetrical that many viewers have described it as beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful nonetheless. Religious leaders are calling it a sign. Conspiracy theorists claim it's a weapon grid. Scientists refuse to speculate publicly, though the expressions on their faces during press briefings reveal a quiet, gnawing fear. The stillness itself has become the message. And that is perhaps the most disturbing part. The silence. This coordinated standstill feels deliberate, communicative, intentional in a way that words cannot convey. There is no aggression, but there is no reassurance either. It is as though 7X Rho is waiting, studying, preparing for a next step that only it can anticipate. The formation around it feels like a diagram of purpose, a celestial ritual paused at a sacred moment. And here on Earth, billions of us are left staring upward, breath held, wondering if this is the prelude to contact, or the geometry of something far more profound. This is Alex Mercer, and tonight I bring you a revelation that has sent a cold, collective shiver through every observatory, government facility, and living room on the planet. For the past 3 days, while the world has been transfixed by the coordinated standstill of 7X Rho and its constellation of escort drones, a quieter investigation has been unfolding behind the scenes. Astronomers monitoring the object noticed something odd, a faint disturbance behind it, a patch of sky where starlight dimmed in a way that didn't match any known phenomenon. At first, the anomaly was dismissed as interference, maybe dust trailing behind 7X Rho, maybe leftover particulate from its impossible deceleration. But dust clouds behave chaotically, drifting and diffusing. This did not. Instead, what we believed was noise started taking on structure, rhythm, a shape that should not exist in the vacuum between Earth and the abyss beyond. As more telescopes aligned their gaze, a chilling truth emerged. The echo behind 7X Rho was not random at all. It was deliberate. Starlight in that region flickers in a pattern far too organized to be natural, sections of space dimming and brightening with timed precision, like shutters opening and closing around a hidden form. Several instruments have recorded the exact same sequence of distortions, as if something massive, something solid, is positioned directly behind 7X Rho and using its gravitational and spatial distortions to mask itself from detection. The shape, while still incomplete, suggests a structure of extraordinary size, far larger than the escort drones, possibly larger than 7X Rho itself. And unlike the drones, this shadow does not move into formation. It does not emit signals. It does not reveal its outline. It simply lurks in the object's wake like a predator following silently behind its lead. Officials from NASA, ESA, and several international observatories have now confirmed privately, in conversations I am not supposed to be quoting, that the distortions behave as though the concealed object is actively manipulating the space around it to remain unseen. Some experts described it as a form of adaptive cloaking, but not in the way our fictional imaginations depict. This isn't bending light around a surface. This is altering space so the light never reaches us correctly in the first place. When pressed for specifics, one scientist said, "It's hiding in a way we don't have vocabulary for yet." That statement alone should terrify us. If 7X Rho bends physics to move, this shadow behind it bends physics to disappear. And the fact that the two are aligned so precisely has raised a disturbing question. Has 7X Rho been the main focus of our attention, or merely the decoy? What frightens the scientific community most is the intention implied by the pattern. This isn't the random drift of a natural body. This is choreography, stealth, precision, and patience. The shadow object has maintained the same distance behind 7X Rho since entering the inner system, moving when it moves, stopping when it stops, forming a perfect tether in its wake. Its behavior is not passive. It is observant, waiting, watching, and only now, as instruments sharpen their readings and global agencies pool their data, Are we beginning to realize that the return of 7X Rho was never a solo event? It was an escort mission of its own, one where we were meant to look at the luminous, geometric marvel in front of us, while something far larger, far darker, drifted silently behind it. Public reaction has been immediate and panicked. The idea that 7X Rho was already beyond comprehension was terrifying enough. But the revelation that it has brought company, hidden company, has ignited new waves of fear. People want to know why this second object, this shadow, refuses to reveal itself. What is its role in this cosmic procession? Is it the true intelligence, the observer, the commander, or is it something else entirely, an entity that required 7X Rho to prepare the environment before it emerged? Around the world, scientists refuse to speculate openly, but behind closed doors, more than one expert has admitted to me they believe the shadow was always the primary arrival, and 7X Rho may have been the announcement. As of this moment, we do not know what hides behind 7X Rho. We do not know whether it is ship, structure, organism, or something beyond classification. But the truth is undeniable. The second arrival did not come alone, and whatever follows in its wake has not yet shown us its face. For the first time since this began, I can say this with certainty. Something is out there that doesn't want to be seen. Yet. This is Alex Mercer, and tonight I am witnessing something that I am not entirely sure I have the vocabulary to explain. Moments ago, the shadow behind 7X Rho, the anomaly that has haunted our instruments for days, finally stepped out of hiding. It began with a ripple, a distortion like heat bending the horizon, except this ripple pulsed across the darkness of space itself. Starlight wavered. The silhouette of 7X Rho flickered, as if reality behind it were being peeled open. And then, the darkness tore. Slowly at first, then with a deliberate widening, a vast crescent shape unfurled from behind the smaller object. Not a ship in the conventional sense, not metal or alloy or anything manufactured by hands we understand. This structure, this being, emerged like something waking from a long slumber, its surface shimmering with veins of cold, luminescent blue light. Calling it a vessel feels inadequate. Calling it a creature feels frighteningly close. As the colossal shape revealed itself fully, the world's observatories went silent, not from malfunction, but from awe. The object is immense, easily dwarfing 7X Rho by orders of magnitude. A crescent, yes, but not smooth or symmetrical. Its edges curl inward like the ribbed tips of some ancient cosmic skeleton, fused seamlessly with crystalline structures that refract the faint starlight into fractured halos. Parts of its hull appear solid. Other sections ripple like translucent cartilage beneath a living surface. And the lights, those ghostly bioluminescent pulses, move through it in slow waves, flowing like breath through a sleeping giant. I am not exaggerating when I say this. From here, watching the high-resolution feeds, it looks alive. Not mechanical, not constructed. Alive. The first response from astronomers was disbelief, then fear, and then a strange, quiet reverence. Several experts have already abandoned the language of engineering entirely. They are calling it an organism, a leviathan of space, a living vessel that blurs the line between starship and entity. One astrophysicist described it to me as a cathedral made of bone and starlight. Another whispered, quite literally whispered, It breathes, Alex. It breathes with the stars. Watching it now, I understand what she meant. Every pulse of blue light seems to sync with distant radiation fluctuations, as if the being is inhaling cosmic energy and exhaling something our instruments barely comprehend. When the pulses dim, space around it almost seems to sag. When they brighten, fragments of light scatter like dust shaken from planetary rings. This is no simple passenger hiding behind 7X row. This is something ancient, colossal, a presence that turns 7X row itself into a mere escort. The drones around 7X row reacted instantly when the Leviathan emerged. They shifted, rotating into a new configuration, one that frames the crescent like attendants opening the doors of some celestial temple. 7X. Row itself drifted slightly aside, as if stepping out of the Leviathan's path, like a smaller creature clearing space for the apex of its kind. The coordinated motion was graceful, rehearsed, almost ritualistic. And then, for a brief moment, every drone and every surface of 7X row glowed in unison with the Leviathan's pulse, synchronizing with its breathing rhythm. It was as though all these structures, mechanical, biological, whatever they truly are, were parts of one singular being or unit of purpose. Across the world, reactions range from terror to religious awe. People are flooding social media with images comparing the Leviathan to angels, demons, titans, whales, dragons, ancient myths projected onto the cold truth of the cosmos. But myth or not, the emergence of this being changes everything. The question is no longer whether we are alone. The question is whether what stands before us is intelligent, purposeful, and aware of our presence. And if it is, what does it want? For now, the Leviathan hangs in the darkness, as silent as the void around it. It does not approach. It does not signal. It simply exists, vast, alive, impossible, casting a curved, shadowed silhouette over the smaller entity that once terrified our world. This is Alex Mercer, and tonight we find ourselves confronting a reality that challenges every definition of technology humanity has ever relied upon. Since the emergence of the Leviathan, the colossal crescent-shaped entity now looming just beyond the orbit of the Moon, scientific instruments across the world have been scanning its surface, its energy signatures, and whatever lies beneath its undulating exterior. The early data has now been compiled, analyzed, reanalyzed, and even sanity checked by teams who admitted they needed breaks to regain their composure. And the conclusion, repeated by multiple agencies and independent observatories, is almost too strange to articulate. This Leviathan is not built. It is not manufactured. It is grown. What we are seeing out there is not a ship in any conventional sense. It is a living architecture, composed of exotic matter that shares more structural similarity with neural tissue than metal, ceramic composites, or synthetic alloys. Its surface behaves like skin, its interior like the branching web of a cosmic brain. Experts I spoke with today struggled to find words precise enough to describe what the scans have revealed. One physicist compared the interior patterns to the firing pathways of a colossal, slow-thinking mind. Another biologist said the layered tissues resemble the cellular lattices seen in deep-sea organisms, creatures that evolved under immense pressure and total darkness. But the most striking insight came from a materials scientist who studied the spectral feedback from the Leviathan's surface. She explained that the exotic matter composing the outer shell interacts with energy fields the way living tissue interacts with sunlight, absorbing, converting, distributing. This isn't plating, she said. Its epidermis. The implication is staggering. The Leviathan may not just be alive, but metabolizing, feeding, adapting to its environment in real time. To bring more clarity, or perhaps more confusion, I convened a panel of experts earlier today. What began as a calm, academic discussion quickly turned into a heated, almost philosophical debate that exposed just how unprepared we are for what this object represents. Some argue that the Leviathan is a biological organism first and a vessel second, much like symbiotic creatures in Earth's oceans that provide mobility or shelter for smaller species. Others believe it is an engineered entity, alive, yes, but designed rather than evolved, created by an intelligence that long ago merged biology and technology into a single, seamless continuum. One researcher even proposed that the Leviathan itself may be the intelligence, not piloted, not controlled, but self-aware. A thinking entity sailing through the cosmos under its own volition. The room fell silent when that idea was voiced. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the broadcast equipment, because everyone realized we may be staring at something far older and far more sophisticated than a simple starship. The debate only deepened when the scans of the Leviathan's internal cavities were projected. Instead of uniform chambers or mechanical conduits, the interior glows with pathways resembling vascular tunnels, branching synaptic corridors, and nodal clusters that expand and contract in rhythmic patterns. It looks, there is no other way to say this, like the cross-section of a colossal brain. But an impossible one, composed of matter we do not have the physics to describe. At one point, one of the neural clusters brightened in perfect synchronization with a distant burst of radiation from Jupiter's magnetosphere, leading several scientists to propose with trembling voices that the Leviathan may be processing environmental stimuli. Thinking, interacting with the solar system the way a creature might sniff the air. Public reaction to this new data has swung wildly between awe and existential dread. The idea that this Leviathan was grown, not built, taps into something deeply primal. Ancient myths of sky serpents, titanic celestial beings, cosmic whales drifting between stars. Stories humanity has told long before we had telescopes. What people fear now is not its size or its strangeness, but the possibilities that it is not alone in its kind, and that it arrived here with intentions still invisible to us. Yet at the same time, a strange reverence has emerged. Many are asking, if this being is alive, does it have a consciousness, a purpose, a morality? And why did it choose to reveal itself only after 7X Rho prepared the stage? As I speak, the Leviathan floats in stillness above our world, blue pulses threading through its structure like thoughts moving through the mind of a god. Scientists don't know what to call it. Machine, creature, both, or something entirely outside our categories. But they agree on one truth. We are witnessing a form of engineering far beyond the limits of biology and technology as we know them. Something created not with tools, but with intention woven into flesh and crystal, matter and mind. This is Alex Mercer, and what I am seeing tonight is both mesmerizing and profoundly unsettling. For the past hour, the Leviathan, the colossal crescent-shaped spacecraft that has dominated the inner solar system, and its engineered companion, 7X Rho, have escalated their activity to a level that defies explanation. Instruments across the globe detected a focused energy beam emanating from the Leviathan, directed straight into Earth's upper atmosphere. It is silent, no sound, no shockwave, but the effect is immediately visible. A luminous vortex, swirling like liquid light, twisting across the skies in patterns that appear deliberate, structured, and almost intelligent. It stretches from horizon to horizon, shifting with a hypnotic rhythm, pulsing with colors that range from deep indigo to vibrant cyan, interlaced with glowing veins reminiscent of the Leviathan's own bioluminescence. Cities from Tokyo to New York are reporting the same phenomenon, and the footage streaming in from amateur astronomers and smartphones alike shows a planet-sized spectacle unlike anything ever seen before. The vortex does not damage the atmosphere, nor does it ignite storms or disturb weather in any harmful way. Instead, it behaves like a scanner, a probe, a searchlight scanning for something hidden within our world. Scientists who have analyzed the spectral data confirm that the swirling energy appears to interact with charged particles in the ionosphere, bending light and affecting electromagnetic fields in subtle but measurable ways. Satellites detect unusual energy readings, while auroras intensify in regions directly beneath the vortex. There is a sense that the Leviathan is not attacking, but probing, measuring, decoding. And yet, the scale of it, the sheer visibility, makes it impossible for humanity to ignore that we are being observed in a way that is both intimate and precise. I have just finished reading messages from viewers and listeners across the globe. People panicked, people awestruck, people unable to describe what they are seeing. One listener in Buenos Aires wrote, "The sky is twisting. It's alive. It's reading us." Another from Berlin reported, "I can see patterns forming, like a giant fingerprint painted across the clouds." And in Tokyo, residents flooded local stations with reports of buildings' lights flickering in harmony with the vortex. Across continents, animals react too. Birds circle the beam. Whales and dolphins change course. Even pets are restless indoors. This is no coincidence. Whatever the Leviathan is projecting into our skies, it interacts with Earth's biosphere, its atmosphere, and its electromagnetic systems in ways that appear intentional. The Leviathan itself remains visible above the horizon, colossal, crescent-shaped, pulsing its familiar blue veins in synchrony with the vortex below. 7X Rho hovers nearby, a silent companion reflecting and amplifying the energy in ways that make it difficult to distinguish the origin of the beam. Observers are speculating that the asteroid is acting as a lens or amplifier, part of the Leviathan's interface with our planet. The swirling vortex moves slowly, scanning sectors of the globe with unerring precision, as though it is seeking something buried within the Earth, or perhaps observing humanity itself. And despite its majesty, despite the hypnotic beauty of the light, the scene is unnerving. Every pulse reminds us that we are being studied, our planet subjected to a scrutiny far beyond human comprehension. This is Alex Mercer, reading your reports and monitoring live feeds from every continent. The sky is twisting. The atmosphere is alive with alien light. And somewhere in that swirling vortex, the Leviathan may be finding exactly what it seeks, or simply observing us, silently, deliberately, with an intelligence that dwarfs our understanding. Humanity is watching, but tonight, I cannot shake the feeling that we are the ones being watched. This is Alex Mercer, and for the first time since the arrival of 7X Rho and the Leviathan, humanity is witnessing something that cannot be framed as a threat. The two objects, once distant, enigmatic, and terrifying, have turned their gaze toward our planet simultaneously. But let me be clear, this is not an attack. No missiles fired, no explosions, No kinetic energy aimed at destruction. Instead, they descend, slowly, deliberately, as if Earth itself has become a stage for something far larger than ourselves. 7X Rho, the engineered asteroid that once frightened us with its precise movements, now glides in perfect harmony with the Leviathan, the crescent-shaped spaceship whose sheer size dwarfs even our largest satellites. Their motions are synchronized, elegant, and purposeful, a choreography of alien intelligence that renders every defense system impotent. Military satellites and planetary shields track the descent, but they do nothing. Humanity cannot interfere, cannot compete, and in that realization, a profound collective pause has fallen across the globe. From the skies above, the Leviathan pulses in deep blue light, flowing across its organic, crystalline hull, while 7X Rho reflects and amplifies the energy like an instrument in this cosmic symphony. The air, the ionosphere, the magnetic fields, all respond to their presence. Cities across continents watch as the objects descend, their shadows stretching across mountains, oceans, and plains. People are frozen in place, caught between awe and fear. There is no roar, no hum, just the subtle, almost imperceptible vibration that has accompanied their arrival since the first resonance waves. And yet, the implication is undeniable. These entities are preparing to make contact, to interact, to deliver something that humanity has never experienced. Governments are standing down, compelled not by diplomacy, but by the sheer impossibility of action. Every missile silo, every anti-orbital defense system, every space-bound interceptor remains inert, recognizing instinctively, or perhaps through invisible influence, that this is not an assault. Analysts on live feeds across the globe are echoing the same thought. This is an arrival, a presence seeking to touch down on our world, to deploy, to communicate, or to establish itself among us. And while the scale is incomprehensible, there is an unmistakable sense of order, intelligence, and control in every movement. The Leviathan and 7X Rho are not chaotic forces. They are sentient, deliberate, and patient. I read your messages as I speak. Reports of the sky glowing with alien light, of instruments trembling with barely detectable vibrations, of animals freezing mid-step in instinctive recognition. Humanity is experiencing a mixture of fear and wonder unlike anything in recorded history. And as I watch the descent continue, I cannot help but feel the enormity of this moment. This is not merely an event in space. This is the beginning of a new era, one that humanity did not ask for, one for which we are not fully prepared. We are on the threshold of direct contact with intelligence that operates on scales and with methods we barely comprehend. This is Alex Mercer, speaking to you as the two objects glide closer, their shadows stretching across the Earth, their pulses beating in resonance with the planet itself. Humanity stands at the dawn of something extraordinary. Not a catastrophe, not an invasion, but an arrival. And whether we are ready or not, the world we have known is about to change forever. This is Alex Mercer, speaking to you from the edge of what we once called normal. Tonight, we have watched the impossible unfold. An asteroid that is more than a rock, a colossal spaceship that seems alive, and a resonance between them that echoes across our planet. We have witnessed light twisting through the skies, the atmosphere bending under forces we barely understand. And now, these objects descend toward us, not in anger, but in purpose. Humanity stands at the threshold of a new chapter, one we never asked for, one we cannot fully control, but one we cannot ignore. Whatever comes next, whatever intentions these beings hold, we have seen that the universe is far larger, far stranger, and far more alive than we ever imagined. And now, for the first time, we are not alone. We are being observed. We are being engaged. And in that truth lies both wonder and uncertainty. From this moment on, nothing will be the same. Watch the skies, listen, and remember, the story of humanity is no longer ours alone. This is Alex Mercer signing off, for now.